What was your experience with 9/11 here when it happened?
Well, it was kind of an interesting time for us, being on the third floor, being a part of the social studies department, and we had been experiencing some technical difficulties with the TVs and in our room, and so very few of the TVs in the rooms were working with the cable situation that we had. And it just so happened that my room was the room that worked fairly well, and so we could see it on the TV. Internet, and we've also used to the internet being up and running and instantaneous, was not at that level quite yet in the school. We had internet access, but it was certainly a little archaic and from time to time did not work. We got a message. I actually got a phone call in my room that said there had been the plane crash, and we had just assumed it was that. And so we tried to get it on the TV and ended up getting some coverage of it. We tried to get on the internet at the time, and then by the time we had gotten on, had gotten the signal in, the second plane had hit. And so obviously at that time we knew this was a terrorist attack. And I think what we did at that point was to let everybody in the department, and it had quickly was spreading throughout school, but we let everybody in the department into the room. And basically what we try to do after processing a little bit, we saw that we did watch both of the towers collapse live. And I think that was the first time in which I think all of us knew, and it was kind of, we all knew that things had dramatically changed. What we did was we gathered most of the kids in to our area and tried to explain to them what was going to happen at that time if it was not happening, which was to explain to them the war scenario, the scrambling of fighters over New York City, the adjusted route of the president wherever he was in the air at that time, because there were a lot of different reports. Even at that time, we didn't really know about the plane and what had happened over Pennsylvania. So that's how quickly things were going on. But it was clear that the United States government had started the process of war and the defense mechanisms that automatically kick into place, the sending out of the to protect the coasts, to protect Washington, D.C., to protect the president, the Supreme Court. All of those things were starting to unfold, and it was just, we were just trying to give the information that we could and that what we understood at the time. And I remember that day very clearly, with all the classes gathering together, and it was a strange time, and obviously something that we had been discussing in our international affairs class from the previous year. President Clinton had given a speech in, I believe, 1999, and we had the clipping up on the wall of Osama bin Laden and a speech that President Clinton had given that we had discussed in foreign policy class. So it was one of those things where we kind of understood what was going on, but we also didn't really know anything at the time, and we're kind of piecing together a lot of the stuff. I look back on that, 10 years later, I think, man, we gave a lot of wrong information at the time because we really didn't know what was going on. We were processing as best we could.